This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here, and today we're going to be on our vessels. We're going to be sailing the open water, going to different islands where we'll be trading different goods, and then we'll be off to the ports to sell those goods for points. Today we're taking a look at Century Eastern Wonders, which is the second game in a trilogy of games that start with Century. The first one was Century Spice Road. Now the Eastern Wonders can be played on its own, or it can be combined with Spice Road. I'm going to go over all of this, then I'll see you on the other side. Now the game has a randomized setup where there's certain tiles that come out each game. Not all tiles are used every game, and you can either use a suggested setup like this, or you can make up your own maps, and there's also some suggested additional maps on the back of the rules that you could use as well. Over the course of the game, you're trying to get the most points by delivering into one of the 4 points on the end with certain cubes there to get the points listed. Cubes are different types of materials. Over the course of the game, you'll be gathering these, and just like Century Spice Road, they go from weakest all the way to the strongest or most rare, most valuable ones. Now through randomization of turn order, certain players will be able to place their boats on certain tiles. Each player will also get a certain amount of goods depending on what they draft from their reverse turn order. Now also, everyone gets their own board, and they get a lot of outposts that they'll be placing on the board through the course of the game. Now in this game, turns go clockwise. On your turn, you may move if you want, and then after that, you have 3 options on your turn. If you do decide to move, your first movement is free. If you want to move more than that, you have to drop 1 cube for every place that you leave from that. Now, if you ever end your movement and there was actually a cube there, you get to pick it up and add it to your cargo holds. Keeping in mind, you can only hold 10 goods in your cargo hold by default. Now, once you're there, again, have moved or not, you have 3 possible choices. One is to harvest, and that's simply to take 2 yellow cubes from the supply and place them in your cargo holds. A different possible option, instead of harvesting 2 yellow cubes, is to actually build an outpost that's on where you're at. So if you look at this tile type, it shows a color and an icon there. Now from your player aid, you're going to take the furthest left outpost from that one that's like this. Now as you go forward on this specific type of tile, over the course of the game, as you place more and more of those, the points are going to get larger for that specific good type by placing those outposts out. So you place that outpost here, and if there happened to have been any outposts from anybody else when you built yours, you'd have to pay 1 cube to the supply for every other opponent's outpost that's there. However, for the rest of the game, once you move or stay here or come back to this tile, you can use this action, which is, in a sense, playing 3 of these yellow cubes and trading them in for a red and a green and putting those in your cargo holds. Now the last possible option you could do after you move is to do the port action. Now let's say we hadn't moved yet and we decide to move here. By the way, when you move to where somebody else's ship is, you have to pay them a cube, and if you can't pay it, you cannot move there. So once we're here, one of the options to do is to go to port. So we're in the port. We could trade in those specific cubes from our cargo hold to take this, and this will be worth 10 points for us at the end of the game. Then a new tile will come from the draw pile, and that's the next thing that needs to be given in order to get those points in that specific port. However, in the first 5 of the draw pile of these, there is an X somewhere shuffled in. You don't know exactly where, but you know it will be somewhere near the beginning. That means there's nothing new here. But let's say on a subsequent turn, this player that's the black color does this specific port. This actually will move to here, and then next one will actually come out in this spot that keeps people from needing to actually move around throughout the course of the game. So again, you're possibly moving, you may or may not, and then you're either taking 2 yellow cubes as a harvest, you're either making an action where you have an outpost, or you're going to the port and scoring that by turning in cubes. That's all you do during the game. However, you saw as you're building outposts in a horizontal way, you'll be getting more and more points at the end of the game. As I showed you earlier, everything that you can see is going to be points at the end of the game. However, anytime you unlock an entire column, you'll get one of these bonuses here. Now this one is straight points at the end of the game, and it descends as it goes down, so the quicker the better. This one will get you 2 points at the end of the game, and when you place an outpost, you can do 1 upgrade, so you upgrade 1 cube to the very next level. This one allows you to move your ship an additional spot without having to do a cube, so you can basically move 2 for free. This one is when you do the harvest action and you take the 2 yellow cubes, you get a red one for free that's worth a point at the end of the game, and this one gives you more spaces in your cargo hold. and turns continue clockwise until any one player has gotten 4 of these victory point counter tokens from the port, and at the end of that round the game will end. You'll add up all of these points. You'll add up all the points you see here, any from bonuses and any non-yellow cubes a point. Whoever has the most is the winner. Now you can also combine Century Eastern Wonders with Century Spice Road, which was the first game in this series. And what this allows you to do is it gives you new actions. You can acquire cards the normal way through Century Spice Road. You can play a card to build that engine, trade, do certain things like you could with the cards from Spice Road. But you can also discard cards that you've already played or ones in your hand to move. That's the way you get around the board, but it mixes the engine building of the cards from Spice Road with the delivery and the trading of the map of Eastern Wonders. All right, now let's first talk about what I liked about this. Much like Century Spice Road, this game has simple mechanisms. You're possibly moving optionally, and then you're either putting an outpost down or using one of those outposts, or going to the port and selling cubes, or you're possibly just gaining cubes. Very simple. 3 main things that you're doing throughout the game, so it's very easy to teach. The turns are very quick, much like Spice Road, where even in a 4-player game it moves very fast because again the mechanisms themselves are simple, but there is some depth there in those decisions. It definitely makes you think very differently from Spice Road. I went into this thinking it was going to be similar to Spice Road, but maybe a little twist. But no, this, even though you're kind of doing this, it looks like the same things where you're trading cubes. The way that the game plays makes it feel definitely very different. I'll expand more on that later. I like that you can, you're building those outposts, and either you're doing that for points or bonuses. So if you go all the way across on a line, you're getting more points. But if you're going on the columns, then you're going to be unlocking different abilities and or points or bonuses like that. And you don't just get to pick. I mean, you're going to specific tiles and you're taking the outpost that has to do with that tile's type. So you're kind of looking at the board, you're looking at where things are lined up, and you may go after one or different strategies of that. So I like that there is, it does feel Spice Road-ish, but it's still very different, simple mechanism, so it kind of fits in that product line. Let me tell you about some of the things I didn't like. In this game, to get cubes, you just harvest. On your turn, you just go, okay, I'll take 2 yellow cubes. For me, that wasn't nearly as interesting as sort of the hand management aspect of playing the card for 2 cubes and trying to figure out which cards to play, when to play that, when to rest, things like that. So just going, harvest, give me 2 yellow cubes, for me wasn't nearly as interesting. Now, this game, after I played it at Origins, and then I talked to the designer, Emerson Matsuuchi, a little bit, and he mentioned, well, you know what? Yes, if you go into it with the expectation that it's going to be Spice Road 2.0, you might be disappointed because that's not really what it is. Spice Road was an engine building game, where this, at the heart of it, really is a pick up and deliver game, where you're picking up anywhere by harvesting, but then you're going to spots on the board to then deliver those cubes to trade them into something else, to go somewhere else, to deliver somewhere else, to finally go and deliver at the port. So it is more of a pick up and deliver than an engine hand management game. And I tend to like the engine building side better than, say, pick up and deliver. So if you're going into this game, realize that it is in the same product line. There's a lot of similarities, but yet it's still very different. And I like the engine building better than, say, a pick up and deliver. I would just rather, build this cool engine than have to deal with the randomness of the tiles. I like that you can make your own maps and you can kind of change things up, and you're sort of at the mercy. So one of my big issues with the game is that the whole thing that you're using, the engine of the board, the trading, it's randomized, which on one side is cool because every game is going to feel different. But the other thing is, like, you might not have good synergies of to what turns what into what. One might be here, and then the other 2 that kind of work well with that or what you're trying to do might be on the other side of the board. And so you spend a lot of time doing this. Okay, then I got to move, and I got to go down here and do this, and then I got to do this. And it felt like it was sort of like Spice Road-ish in slow motion for me. And I didn't like having the randomness of the tiles, having sort of the engine already built on the board, versus me picking cards in Spice Road and building my own engine. I didn't like the fact that you're at the mercy of the way the game was set up, and it might not be set up in a very efficient manner, and it just makes things slower. I did not like that aspect of it. Also, the port tiles, after the little X tile comes out in the first 5 times, there's only going to be 3 ports out. And so there's less options, and then if someone steals that, it's a lot more devastating in this game than in Spice Road, because you came all the way over here to get it, someone stole it, now you got to go all the way to the other side of the board, and again, you've got to use turns and resources to get there. And I'm sure that's maybe the challenge Emerson wanted to have, but I didn't enjoy it nearly as much. Now, on the positive side, I did play it Sand to Sea, which was combining Spice Road with this. Now, for me, It definitely made the game better because, again, the problems I had with the lack of engine building and moving around and felt like, things were just taking too long to move around and get things and I'm stuck with what's there. The Sand to Sea helped add some of that engine building, hand management aspect of that. But in the end, it still, for me, wasn't as enjoyable as just playing Spice Road alone. So for me, this is a very different game. So, and talking to Emerson, he says, yes, when he was in playtesting, he found people that liked Spice Road that didn't like this. He found, obviously, people that liked Spice Road that liked this, but he also found people that liked this that didn't like Spice Road. And that's because they are very different, even though they're very similar in many ways. So this is one of those ones that you're going to want to sort of try before you buy. Just because you like Spice Road doesn't mean you're going to like this, because I did enjoy Spice Road quite a bit. This one didn't do it for me. Sand to Sea made it better, but in the end, I'd still just rather play Spice Road. So that was Eastern Wonders.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com.